Hi, I'm Justin Lokitz, and this is the Design Shift Podcast, your weekly design guide packed with actionable insights, expert interviews, and bold ideas to help designers at every level lead with clarity, influence change, and shape what's next. In this episode, I sit down with Kursat Ozenc, design leader, educator, and one of the clearest thinkers I know on how design shapes culture, behavior, and systems of work. Kursat is an executive design director at JPMorgan, where he's led design for new business ventures. He also teaches organizational culture and ritual design at Stanford's D.school. Keep listening to hear how Kursat approaches designing at the edge of innovation when the playbook doesn't exist yet, why most organizational change efforts fail before they ever reach teams, and how intentionally designing rituals can transform how people collaborate, especially in the age of distributed work and AI. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show, the Design Shift newsletter, as well as Kursat's Design Meets AI Substack. Thanks for listening. All right. Well, here we are again, folks, at the Design Shift podcast, which of course is also a newsletter. Today I'm joined by my good friend, ex-coworker, Kursat Ozenc. And Kursat is really interesting. Like a lot of the people we talk with here, he works at a lot of different intersections. And in this case, he works at the intersection of design and systems, but also culture. He's led design for new business ventures and started large organizations like JPMorgan Chase and SAP. And Kursat and I know each other from Autodesk way back when, doing some of the same stuff. He also teaches organizational culture at Stanford d.school, and he's written extensively about rituals as a tool for shaping how teams work, which of course goes right back into culture and also into new ventures and everything else. I have written this, this interview guide and this conversation about what design looks like when the real work isn't just the screens and services, but behavior, people, coordination, and even meaning. So I'm excited about this, and say hi, Kursat.
Hi everyone. So hi Justin. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm
Of
really
course.
excited. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, likewise. And Kursat and I have been, I left Autodesk more than 10 years ago, and Kursat, you were there a little while longer, but I mean, we've been sort of communicating ever since. So
Yes.
here we are. So before we dive in, I'd love you just help us ground, us in how you see your own work today. What do you do, and where do you do that today?
Yeah. So I'm a design lead at JP Morgan right now. So I've been in the company for more than 4 years now. So I was part of a new business ventures like innovation team working on innovating new financial products. And the past 6, 7 months, now I'm part of a more traditional design organization leading banking products for JP Morgan. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned already you were leading new products. You've sort of been around a bit. You've designed product systems, organizations, rituals. When someone, whether it's someone inside of JP Morgan or just about anyone else, myself included, someone asks you what kind of designer you are now, how do you answer that?
Yeah, like what kind of designer I am? Is
Yeah,
that?
what kind of designer are you? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm more like a strategic minded designer who looks at things from a systems level, like trying to
Mm.
understand the relationships between, even it's a simple product workflow, like how does it connect it to other parts of the product. So I will say, yeah, I approach challenges with that systems mindset. I'm
Yeah.
also a little bit of a hybrid designer, like I can move between design and research because of my background in design research. So I also, yeah, played into that role. If yeah, like the whenever there's a need for discovery work, I also lead those
Uh,
as well, and also run strategy and also product design. Yeah.
Interesting. And where did the where did the strategy piece come from? How did you think of yourself, or how did you start, sort of diving in and getting, really deeper into strategy as part of design?
Yeah, I think it's after Autodesk, I started at SAP at the
Yeah.
enterprise company, and I was part of this in-house design team. It's called App House, and that team's
Yeah.
charter was really about like defining uh, strategy or defining innovation or helping SAP customers to better innovate, like through
Yeah.
these customer engagements. I guess I started doing strategy there, and then when I joined JP Morgan, the new business ventures team also looks like further ahead, like
Uh,
what should be our horizon two um, products look like. So I think that's how I started as SAP, continued in JP Morgan, and now
yeah.
it's still part of my work to think ahead, like what can be done in the product space. If you want
Yeah.
to stay innovative, stay competitive, what else we can
Right.
do in the space? Yeah.
What, I mean, kind of laddering on that a bit, how, on one side you've got research, and yeah, I think that's how we met really at Autodesk, which you came in as a UX researcher, and then I think your role expanded there too. How how do those things feed each other? Your research background, your design, your design chops, and also the strategy piece. Do they inform each other somehow? Does one build on the other? Is one actually, like really blow up the other in some way?
Yeah, I think I would say the strategy is almost like the bridge.
Okay.
I would I would think the design really is the driver, like
Yeah.
how uh, I bring that lens of systems thinking and visual thinking. I love to draw diagrams to simplify like
Yeah.
complex concepts. I think the design thinking and that visualization is really my bread and butter. Like I lead with those, even the research piece. Like how do we instill the key insights and turn them into something that people can act on the product side.
Yeah.
I think that's how I see my work has been influential in that sense. But yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting because I also think about, and we'll get to it in a bit, your books about rituals at work, and those are very, those are also very visual. So I'm going to
yeah,
make an assumption some of that, certainly if not all of it, came from you.
yeah. I think we drew, especially second book. Yeah, I drew
Uh-huh.
all the illustrations.
Yeah.
The first book, Margaret, my co-author, she drew the rituals, and then I drew
Okay.
the cover of the book. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you design is, so if strategy is at the intersection, design sort of feels like it's the thing that wraps around all of this work for you. What does design mean to you? What is design?
Yeah, I love to I have a good definition of
Ah,
design. I learned at Carnegie Mellon. So I went to Carnegie Mellon for my graduate studies, and then
mm,
in there we heard about Herbert Simon, like he's a famous Nobel laureate. I think he defines design as the transforming these existing situations into their preferred states. So
mm,
it's very broad, like intentionally broad. This idea of looking into, and it's not like it's a little bit different than anchoring the design as a problem solving. It's maybe it's there is not a there is an opportunity there, right? There might be an opportunity. The existing situation, maybe it's not problematic, but there is some untapped potential there. Maybe design's role there is to turn that potentiality into actuality. Maybe I think that's why I like that definition.
yeah,
Um, So that's one, I still keep that as a reference point. Like, yeah, like what's the, in any situation, there might be, we can drive a project through the lens of problem solving. That's fine. Usually it's the case, but there's certain cases it's not the case. Maybe there are the things that are already working. Maybe your role as a designer is to amplify those working things or make those things more streamlined. Yeah, I think that's why I like that definition a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I like that. I like the what'd you say? You said like potentiality into actuality. Yeah, that's a good one. I've heard something similar from someone else, and it was sort of like, make ideas real, but something it was certainly more profound than that. But I like, yeah, it's potentiality because potentiality can be problems, but it can be opportunities, right?
yeah,
It's just potential to do something different for the better of whatever that product, service, people, environment, yeah, context, so forth. Yeah, good
yeah.
one.
It also, I think, uh, makes you attentive to things that are working. I think the
Yeah.
um, one thing that's oh man, it's escaping from me, but this idea of Dan Chip Heath and Dan, I think they talked in their book. They talk about bright spots. Like, what are the in any
Uh-huh.
situation? What are the bright spots? And then
Right.
maybe looking looking at things as a designer, like things that are working, maybe not they are hidden kind of, and then you take that and turn that into something more proper or more amplified. Yeah, I think I like that kind of approach. Uh,
Right, right. It also,
yeah,
like those bright spots, that the Heath brothers point out. Yeah, it's not even just for me, it's also not even just exploding those and, making them brighter for perhaps, but yeah, I think they also we think about those then as frameworks like, well, it's working here. Why is it working so well, right? Why is this a bright spot? And then I feel like, can you now apply that some of those conditions or that framework to other places like, oh, maybe it'll work well here too, something like that.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
Um, you know, this line of thinking then kind of gets me to another set of questions, which is a lot of the a lot of the work you've done is designing when there isn't a clear playbook. You were at App House, right, at SAP, you were new ventures at JPMorgan, even back at Autodesk, right? We were doing this InfraWorks thing when there really wasn't a playbook. We were designing something totally different and unique with a completely different interface, really, than had ever been done before in that way. And so I think about it that way. And when you are specifically inside of a new venture, I think of it as this way, as like really uncertainty is the material. Uncertainty is the thing that you have, right? And maybe uncertainty is the bright spot in that case, that you can design with. What's fundamentally different about designing in that environment and, with really it's just totally uncertain compared to established products or platforms?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Yeah, it reminds me of like a startup trying to find its way, like
Yeah,
the
exactly. Yeah.
product market fit, right? I think
Mhm. Yep.
that's a similar challenge, but my experience has been so far. I've been within the larger organizations. How do we innovate?
Yeah.
But then I think there is some parallel to a startup there, but yeah, I think in my experience, it's very different than, yeah, you don't have a clear product roadmap or like feature release kind of things.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's a different beast, and it, how we navigate that ambiguity is really leaning onto like human-centered, like the discovery work that
Yeah.
talking to customers, talking to
Yeah.
clients or potential clients to find your way in that ambiguity.
Yeah.
Um, I think that gives you that's one part of the equation, I guess. Like
Hmm.
that's one piece that fueling you, like the testing your hypotheses with clients. But also, what I also found important is having a strong stakeholder who's a stake in the game. I think that's also
Yeah.
the other piece that has been that worked or didn't work. I think that's so you need to have almost. I think I have a way like the our well-known innovation like framework, like the desirability, feasibility, viability,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
most that's kind of in our back of mind. Like those are the three things that we are trying to find, playing with those three levers and finding that as like the sweet spot of innovation. But it's been a struggle. I mean, it's not an easy thing. And I remember in my like the former previous team, yeah, when a new joiner comes in, we almost upfront like about that. Oh, this team is different. This is like it's even our. I think we worked on our values in our team. Like I led that effort too. Like
Oh
ambiguity
yeah.
was one of those team values, like embracing ambiguity. So if you want to succeed in this environment, you need to embrace that that
Right.
dynamic. Yeah, I think it's a moving, very dynamic, um, like these cycle, and it's a struggle. It's not an easy thing. Yeah, that's definitely different than a regular product team, I would say. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. What do you find is most difficult in those environments? Is it, I'm just going to throw a couple things. Is it finding the thing? Is it prioritizing the pieces of the value proposition, features, functions, whatever? Is it polishing those things? Like what's, I don't know, those are just a few things. What do you find most difficult when you're
I
working
think
in these environments?
it's definitely the finding the thing that
Yeah.
uh, that aligns business goals with client needs
Yeah.
and then the zeitgeist of the organization, like within but what's important for the stakeholders that you are working with.
Right.
Yeah, like finding that alignment is a challenge, especially in these teams that like the innovation teams that work within larger organizations because
Yeah.
there are almost two different realities. One of them is very established organization with their own routines, cadence, and rhythm, and then the innovation teams they want to be more competitive and fast moving, but
Yeah.
they typically hit the wall. Actually, that's not. I mean, if you want to innovate, yeah, y- there's almost like a dissonance with different rhythms between your team and the larger organization.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
the challenge.
Yeah. I've seen quite a bit of that as well, which is, yeah, I like the way you frame that, which is it really is different realities. Yeah, there's the way the market's moving, there's the way the organization's moving, but then also there's also just the reality of the organization. Like what's the innovative thing that's going to be good for that culture? And like you
Yeah,
mentioned zeitgeist for that zeitgeist. I think a lot of the young designers I work with they would look at human-centered design and the outcomes from that. You can call them solutions, you can call them whatever you want, but the outcomes from human-centered design is they're purists, right? Well, this is what people really need. But if you do that, I think what I'm hearing you say also is if you do that inside of a large organization, well, it isn't that pure because it may not be the right thing for that organization to do. It may
yeah,
not even be the thing that organization cares about, or perhaps it cares about that, but it's got a different tilt to that thing. It wants to reflect that in a different way, I suppose.
yes. I think it's that notion of maybe it's not the priority. I mean, they find it important, but it's not top of the mind, or yeah, maybe
Yeah,
there are competing priorities, and then you are not that on that list, like priority list, and then
right.
yeah, that defines whether that's innovative or not. It's very contextual, I guess. We need
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah. It
Uh,
it makes me think about, this a different way, which is, maybe you can, share a moment from some of this new ventures work where the work you did or that you were doing, or maybe you're doing, I don't know, but the design, basically design and your design process reframed the problem rather than the solution, to the problem, right? Where, again, I'm thinking about even in innovation work in big companies, where have you, maybe do you have a moment like that you can share where you actually reframe the problem totally rather than the solution that came from that problem?
Yeah, I mean, in our case, yeah, my in my team, we had that like there were asks from the executives to like, can you validate these hypotheses
Yeah.
on certain things? And um, we also approach those like validated with client, like the potential clients, and then
Hmm.
we found out that actually this idea will not fly with our client, like potential client base.
Hmm.
In those cases, I think maybe it's not a total reframe, but it's more um, we had to tell that story of um, back to the executives that actually this idea looks good on paper, but in reality, too many things need to align to make
Uh,
for this to happen, and then we are not in the position to compete and make those alignments within our context.
right.
So I think there were a couple of incidents, like not incidents, a couple of cases like that. We validated a couple of business ideas, and then almost that was a success. It's interesting. I mean, if you look at in one angle, you say, "Oh, that project didn't fly," but maybe it was good because I think through design we helped them to validate those ideas and help them to not invest in this idea. So maybe it's
Yeah.
almost like making the decision upstream. So maybe the other way to approach this, they invest the resources and then after a couple of years they realize that, oh, actually this is not working. I think we were almost like a canary, like we helped the organization to validate ideas early so they don't need to burn that burn those
Yes.
resources. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see that as a big win, right? And that is certainly the reframing of the problem, right? Because it feels like you're really just exploding the context, right? You've got perhaps an organization that sees, yeah, bright spots, ideas, whatever, but they're so simplified, right? They're looking at a sea of stars and they're really focused on these two stars. What they don't realize, like, oh, well, you're sitting in a sea of stars that are all connected with these, with these different
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
pieces, right? And so, yeah, and what you're doing is you're speeding up, you're validating or invalidating, but you're also speeding up the decision making process to not fail. Like, oh,
Yeah.
let's not do this because we'll fail or we'll have to spend so much time and effort. It's a great idea and dot dot dot. This is not a great idea for us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that um yeah, yeah, I don't want to get into details, but
Yeah.
one of them was on the healthcare space, and then
Yeah.
yeah, it helped us, yeah, to have that design forward, that this idea of
Yep.
validating ideas quick and dirty with prototypes. Yeah, those, yeah, they
I
help.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I use a similar story even with my own students and clients in the past where I was working for a large electronics manufacturer and they had acquired a company. So they'd already done the wrong thing, which is they had acquired a company that they didn't know what to do with, and then they spent a lot of money on that company for years. And
Oh,
when we
wow.
came in, it took a few days of discovery and then some ideation and then really the validation with their team for them to realize like, oh, this was a bad idea.
Uh,
But it's still like, okay, fine, a bad idea a few years down the road, they were able to figure out what to do, close it, suck those people into other parts of the organization and save money, rather
mm,
than continuing to spend whatever tens of millions of dollars on that
man, wow, that's even
technology team. Yeah, but it happens, right?
definitely.
Yeah, I think that's often our job, to your point, as designers, is not to design the thing, but to, frame the context properly so that we don't have to go design the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like help them to see the almost the future so they can.
Yeah, that you see, yeah, and that's the strategic part. That's your right. That's your strategic center, which is again a lot of the, for instance, young design students sort of see they they the perfectness of design and we can design a new interface in a new company, but I think as you become more seasoned, you become more strategic, and so you realize, oh yeah, it can be perfect, but only in perfect situations, of which there are none, yeah, or very few.
Yeah, you need
Um,
that alignments of stars aligning. So,
yeah,
right,
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
On the other side, right? At some point there's something that looks like it might scale, right? And again, you've been I'm just going to make some assumptions here that you've been in these situations inside of these organizations like, oh, okay, there really is something here that we should do. And it needs to move forward. And so how do you recognize that moment when a new venture, you've got maybe a little crack team working on it, and it needs to shift from this exploratory design and maybe some strategy, maybe even business modeling, whatever, and now into this operational thing, and there's a handoff to perhaps even some other team. How do you recognize that? Where is that built into the process?
I think it's yeah, it happens. I mean, we had a few successful projects like in our ventures team, and I would say it's that alignment that I was talking about. Like
Yeah.
when you hit that maybe that three circles you have, uh, at least you have two of them. You have a good alignment. I think in our case, the business, like the stakeholders, and there was a buy-in from them and then buy-in from the clients, like
Mm,
those customer desirability.
yeah.
Those two things, when they click, I think the third one usually you can move things forward with at least you need to have those two together, business
Right.
desirability. I think, and then in my experience, we handed off these product ideas. I think in one instance, we just handed off to the product team.
Hmm.
And in the second, the other project, I think my teammates, they moved from the innovation team to the
Oh,
product team. So yeah,
yeah.
there are different models, I think. Yeah, we were discussing too at that time, like what are the different ways this can happen.
Yeah.
So I can see, yeah, both can happen. The innovation team can stay as
Yeah.
they can just hand off this to the product teams, but they can also graduate from the innovation team to the product team.
Right. And
I
carry it
saw,
forward.
yeah, I saw both instances.
Huh.
So I think that, yeah, depends on the organizational context and
Yeah.
what's right in that context. Yeah.
Without naming names or giving specific examples, do you have a feeling of which one has, now that you've seen that in both cases, which one's worked better? Even historically now, because you probably have some context there, like which one of those worked better?
Um, let's see. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
They are very organically developed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's not a clear answer. I think they are
Okay.
both kind of successful in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's okay. That leads me to another piece here, and I want to talk a bit about like organizational change because, you know, what I'm asking there is like, and what we're talking about is you find something and there's an opportunity, right? And to do something different, to do something new, perhaps there's a wholly new business model attached to that too. And of course, the challenges then don't scale, don't disappear. They just show up now at a different scale. So whether that team, that innovation team now goes to try to scale the thing as a spin-off or a new internal team or whatever, or you're handing off to a product team, now it's a totally different scale that those challengers are working within. And, you've also, as part of your work, you've spent years not just designing the things, but also designing the change inside of these complex organizations. So when companies say they want transformation and they want this kind of change, what are they est underestimating about the transformation, about the change, the strategy, those kinds of things?
Yeah, I can speak to this through my Stanford work more. So
Yeah.
we in our classes we typically partner with a startup,
Ah, okay.
like how they are, because I think they are more open to shifting culture because it's in that formation phase, or
Yeah.
they don't know what to do. Like this
Yeah.
now, all of a sudden they are like 150 people
Yeah.
organization, and they want to keep the core culture, or at least the essence of it. And yeah, I think we worked every year. We typically partner with at least two organizations.
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, one thing I see they underestimate is the gap between what executives think the reality is and what employees
Oh,
experience.
yeah.
Like that gap
Yeah.
between executives and, yeah, employees, like how they see reality, especially in startups. I think the executives or the founder, they are more like this visionary.
Yeah.
They set the story, vision, and but the employees usually they are the ones who are suffering under like the realities of delivering that vision.
Uh,
And then also founders are not aware. I think that's the other piece we've been observing. Maybe they're like the founders are not educated as they don't have they are not leaders by, I mean, it's like they are not managers, like they don't know. And
yeah.
it happens a lot when I listen to Google's early days, like
Yeah.
they wanted to do a like the flat organization, but then it failed, so they had to decide hire like the professional managers. In that,
Right.
I think it's a similar concept, like this idea of um, not having the skill set of managing a big like when the organization gets bigger.
Hmm.
That's the other piece. And I guess that maybe a third one is I think we emphasize this a lot in the class. This idea of culture can um, I call this happenstance culture. Like maybe if you don't put intentionality and structure to culture, you assume that it will be all right. But I think what we found is if you don't put the structures into designing culture, or the team culture, it usually the employees are the ones who suffer from that lack of structure,
Yeah.
like the lack of a good team playbook or a
Yeah.
culture playbook. So that's the other piece. I think some founders, I think we worked with a few founders, they were very attentive to culture. So that's why they partnered with us. I think, but sometimes that's the other underestimation, like
Mm.
that like leaving culture by itself, that they assume that it will run by itself, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always the case. Yeah, I think those are maybe a few things that we identify, like the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it also feels, there's on that one hand, yeah, there's structure and there's cultural norms and so forth. And on the other, I mean, just like we were going back to the context of an idea that an executive brings, and but then they bring the simplified view, and it turns out that it's a really complex environment that they work in, right? And I think it's probably the same, I suppose, in culture, right? Because you've got power and politics and fear and and people who are just coming for a paycheck and everything else under the sun. And to your point, a founder is founded because they've got this vision and drive and it's their baby. but not everyone who works there is it, it's not their baby, right?
Yeah,
They're there
yeah,
for a job.
totally.
And so again, now they have power and politics and fear is part of that. How do you design or how do you approach design when those are part of the system that you're working with inside of, right? How do you approach design and culture and organization, uh, transformation, I suppose, in that way?
Yeah, I think I mean again, yeah, I get this question in different contexts too. Like
Yeah,
yeah, especially I think this might be less of an issue. It can happen in startups too, but
yeah.
yeah, I would say yeah, my recommendation typically is like finding allies. Like almost approach this like a long game. I think culture is
Uh,
one of those things that you can't really make a difference in the short term, but it's
yeah,
more
sure.
um, like finding some allies. Even fear is in the environment. Like, can you find someone that you can work together?
Hmm.
That's maybe the first step. And then this, like, how do you bring along people uh, for your desired goal, like whatever that is?
Mm.
Maybe you want to make your organization more creative, more collaborative. If you
Yeah.
can find like a small, like if you can form a small alliance, maybe with one manager, and then you
Hmm.
try something small with that manager, and in the long run, I think maybe once that you you make something successful, and then you extend that into a second, maybe you find another alliance.
Mm.
So that kind of approaching this more like a long game and finding um, people to work with, and then eventually that will trickle down to a bigger change. I think that's the theory of change, like the starting
Yeah.
small with
Yeah.
with bringing people along with you, and then in the long run, it will create an effect. I think that's the how I approach this. But yeah, um,
What's well, thinking about all the work you've done then and startups and also the, at Stanford and D.school and also, these big organizations you've worked at. What's one, you can name a couple or you could just be vague about it. An organizational change effort that's surprised you in how it unfolded, right? Again, because I think organizational change and culture are often surprising, but not maybe not in the same ways we think of. So what's one example of where that, you were working on this, but the way it unfolded was quite surprising.
I've been doing a little bit of um, helping our teams to onboard new employees.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I created a programming around that within JPMorgan too, like this idea of bringing more system, like a cohesive onboarding experience when a new person joins the
yep,
company.
yep, yep.
So, I mean, that was, I don't know, maybe I think that definitely helped the team to have that kind of structured view to onboarding. And then maybe that's one example, like of a culture uh,
Yeah,
change. But I also helped my previous team. Um, so when we first, I think we were the first members of this new business ventures team, and then I got teamed up with my design friend, teammate, and then we almost uh, created a whole campaign of like
hmm,
ran a series of workshops defining the team's values, and then after we did that, we also did a follow-up, like how do we manifest these values within our
yeah, yeah,
um, team practices, like team meetings,
yeah,
and then maybe yeah, that was I was also delighted that people came along, like the teammates. that was a small success story for our designers to lead
Yeah.
um, uh, that kind of almost culture definition for a new team.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would say, that was a surprising. We also even designed a brand for the team. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
cool.
was that was a cool experience, I would say. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think culture is certainly like you can feel it, but it's also quite abstract, right? And as you're talking about this, and it's a good segue because something that isn't abstract, that's really concrete, are this idea of rituals, which you know a lot about, right? You and your partner have written two books. I think it's Rituals at Work, and is it Rituals for Virtual Meetings, which was right
yes,
after or during a pandemic, something like
yeah,
that, right?
right.
So two great books. I think I have a galley copy of at least one of those books, and it was awesome. Um, so I think about it this way, many teams, they confuse rituals with culture, with meetings or processes, things like that, when it isn't. Rituals are something different. At least this is what I got from your book. So how do you distinguish a true ritual from just about any other calendar event or process? What is a ritual?
Yeah, in the book we have a definition. Like rituals are actions that a person or a group does by following a script, but that script or that action is imbued with meaning. I think that maybe the
Mm,
biggest differentiation between ritual and habit or ritual and routine or any other meeting is
mm,
people attach some kind of meaning to this activity. I think that's the and one of my friends, I like the who's also he has a book on rituals. I think he calls like intention. In a ritual, you have the intent,
mm,
action, and attention. Like I think those are the Casper Cooley. I think he has the book called The Ritual. Yeah, I think that those are the main ingredients. Like you need to have
uh,
clear intention, some kind of attention. Like you invest meaning into this action.
yeah,
And those are some of the ingredients of ritual. And yeah, I think that's the other, I always also talk about ritual because people mix ritual with routine a lot, like people
yeah,
use
yeah,
interchangeably, right?
yeah.
That's almost by design. If your ritual loses its meaning, it becomes like a routine. That's how I read it. Like
Ah,
there's that kind of fragile rituals are fragile. If you start going through the motions and don't
yeah,
find meaning, then it
yeah.
becomes a routine. So it's yeah. So
Can
that's
you can you give an example of each one, of a
yeah,
ritual versus a routine?
yeah. I think well, this will be a boring example, but maybe every morning you on the way to work you drink coffee, right? That's
Yeah,
maybe a routine.
that's an absolute routine. Yeah, it's a bit of a
Routine.
ritual for me, but sure, it's a routine.
But then I think maybe in your case,
Uh-huh.
you might be you have a very certain way of making your coffee
Uh-huh.
and you need to follow
True.
those steps.
True.
And if you are missing one step, you feel bad afterwards.
True.
That's a ritual, right? I think those are the same
Uh,
from an outsider. They look same, but for you, it's very ritualistic. I think that's the thing that differentiates. Like there's
uh,
the ritual performer, you invest that meaning into that activity, then it becomes a ritual. But it can easily be, it's like a very,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. It
yeah,
makes sense. It's starting to make sense. So it's a difference between just needing caffeine and getting just a cup of coffee because you need the caffeine. It's part of your routine to get started versus the intent, going back to what you said before, the intentionality
yeah.
of no, like I like to make a mocha pot. That's my coffee of choice. I like a big cup of coffee, but I also really like espresso. So use a mocha pot, right? The Italian mocha pot on the
Oh
stove,
yeah,
right? So it's like it's kind of like an espresso meets a coffee. It's a strong coffee. But yeah, it's got a few steps to it, and it's quite manual.
Also, maybe
Yeah.
I think in certain cases, people maybe you embed some meaning to that as well. Like
Uh-huh.
maybe it's like that care.
Yeah,
You choose the coffee beans and all that
it's true.
care and intentionality. And when one day you miss you don't have time and you skip that. That's the other thing people. I mean, I hear people talking about if you miss a ritual, you feel bad afterwards. Like it's
Yeah,
almost that's something that's missing in your from your life. But when you
yeah, that's a
eat,
good one.
you don't feel that much. It's just a
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
that's a great way to look at it too. I like that definition quite a bit. It's yeah, if you miss it, if you miss that part, it's missing from your life.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, that's mhm.
can you, I mean, go kind of on this idea of examples, um, wondering if you have an example of even some small ritual and a team-based one that you've seen have an outsized impact on trust, clarity, or momentum inside of a team.
Yeah. I mean the very small one is these. I mean we have all like the from agile ceremonies we have the stand-up meetings, but
Oh yeah, sure.
like I think stand-up meetings we at SAP we instead of doing every day, I think we had like this Monday and Thursday
Sure.
stand-ups, and we usually start those meetings with a very little like one personal update, one work update, and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
toss Angry Bird to the other team member. I think those like it's very basic. That's like a very small ritual that sets the tone. Like Mondays, you
Yeah.
talk about your personal life and your work life. I mean, you can share as much as you want to. There's no like there's an yeah. I think it's also you need to be inclusive. People sometimes you want to have that in the ritual, but that's one example. But others.
Yeah.
Onboarding is a very important, I think that like if you think of a new employee joining your team,
Yeah.
that's also like outsized impact. Like that's when you can show what your team is made of or like how
Mm.
like what you stand for or you model behavior, like how that now they're part of that team, right? I think in our classes we have lots of onboarding, like design students find like pain points around when a new
Yeah.
employee joins. I think I remember one ritual, this idea of, I think we featured this in the book as well. It's called Crash the Desk. This idea of when a new employee joins, they don't know anyone. I think the ritual was teammates, they bring a small like some kind of a memorabilia from their own desk
Yeah,
to
sure.
the team member's desk, and then
That's cool.
the new employee needs to find what belongs to whom. It's almost like
Yeah.
an icebreaker for that team, like for
Right.
this new employee. So that's
Yeah.
another example, like these little intentional things that can have a different like a impact on, especially on that connection level that can help the team members to connect.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think those are some of the examples. We have a lot in the book. Like I can
All
definitely
right.
pull more, but yeah, there are like
Oh, I'm
yeah,
going to share the book anyways with the like at least
yeah,
the title and some of these things. Certainly, we can yeah, I can share them in the as part of this podcast and also the write up afterwards. Yeah.
yes. Um, I really like also maybe one last ritual I can
Yeah.
mention.
Sure.
We um, we also interviewed lots of people right when writing the book. I think we interviewed a CEO from Colombia. He was a
Mm.
CEO of a home appliance company,
Hmm.
and he has a very unique ritual. Like instead of like he has his board meetings with his executives, like executive team, instead of running these meetings in their like the headquarters, he was taking them into these road trips to different parts of the
Oh
country,
yeah.
like in Colombia, just to meet with the clients in there, or like going to those towns and meeting their salespeople, also
Right.
also their like the users. And
Uh-huh.
that was really a manifestation of like client centricity, and then
Mm.
being like that was another one I've really found. I still remember that one, like one way to show. You can say that, oh, we are customer centric, but you can also show that to to your executive team to really model that and
Yeah.
bring them along. That was another example more. And
Yeah.
maybe now, after sharing this example, maybe one thing I can talk about is ritual can be in different scales, like from
Hmm.
very little small team rituals to company-wide rituals.
Yeah,
It can
sure.
be very grassroots to very executive, maybe um, like the example from Colombia, that kind of ritual. So yeah, that depending on your context, you can almost initiate, yeah, different scales of ritual based on your needs, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of my wife was told me that, and I don't know what it's called. So forgive me, but I think it's in Japan, and they have the sort of in many companies in the morning they have this a radio station plays that, and the radio station has exercises that they do in the morning, and it feels like, and I think that's what you're talking about, right? That's a ritual. It's not just a routine. It's a ritual that's scaled almost an entire country, maybe the entire country at this point, and lots of corporate centers in that country where in the morning, this radio station's playing and they have sort of the workout of the day, and you're just at your desk and everyone's coordinated doing this, this
That's amazing. I haven't heard that.
rituals.
Ah, cool.
Look it up. I'm butchering it, I'm sure. I'm not even trying to say the name, but it's pretty simple. Um, but it feels like that's what you're saying, right? That's not a routine. And I've seen videos. It's really part of how we start our day, in Japan. Um, yeah, I think it's
Mm.
super, super interesting. And it does feel, you know, culturally like that is it is a way to drive culture, but it's sort of it's just a thread through culture. If we can all anchor to this ritual that we hold dear, we enjoy, whatever we believe in. Yeah, it sort of, it builds that culture, but it's also this thread that ties it together somehow.
Yes, I think I always talk about like rituals make culture visible. Like, yeah, you were mentioning that it's very hard to grasp. I think
Yeah,
ritual makes it more graspable. But you need to approach them with care
yeah,
and intentionality, like similar to the culture change that we were talking about. If you need to bring along people with you when you are proposing or designing a new ritual,
yeah.
they should be, yeah, inclusive, and um, because if you don't do that, I think then it becomes almost oppressive too. Like there is that kind of
That's right. Yeah,
dynamic to ritual too. If it's not inclusive, or if people are not um, aligned with the intent,
yeah.
that that might cause yeah, exclusivity.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to sort of bring this all together with just a few more minutes we have left. And you've been all over innovation and change and rituals. And I think it's fascinating because at the end, you're all, yes, you're strategic, but you're a strategic designer, right? You're a designer through and through, and you've done research, strategy, designing of the things, the rituals, the organizations. Um, when you look across all of those things, innovation, change, rituals, what do you think, what do you think designers are uniquely equipped to see that perhaps others missed, or non-designers aren't thinking that way or might miss?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a great question. A designer's power come from being a connector of different.
Yeah,
We are almost like
yeah,
threading through different. Yeah, like you see these different dots, and then you make the connections, and that
yeah,
requires being a systems thinker. I think that's
Yeah.
one thing that I mean, engineering, they also have system. I mean, we also share that system thinking approach, but maybe our power comes from also being people, like reading the situation and reading people's
Mm.
needs, desires, goals. We are systems thinkers, plus we can bring that people, that human-centric lens to the situations. I think that's our
Right.
unique, I guess, it can be our unique contribution, like bringing that care and intention to system, blended with systems thinking. I think that's our power. And maybe
Hmm.
the other one is like we are good at visualizing
Yeah.
and simplifying complex concept, complex things, and making them approachable and understandable. I think that's
Yeah.
our other big, even with AI. I think that's our role will be evolving from making things to maybe making connections, uh, and then creating things. Because I think AI is now creating so much output, and now as
Yep.
designers, now maybe our role is to become like the having the taste or craft or whatever, like
Uh,
that kind of connector lens, and then simplifying things again. I think AI now overwhelming people, and
ah.
then we will bring back, maybe that will be our differentiator, maybe how simplifying things for people to um, digest things, what AI is creating for us, or making
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
more approachable and digestible. Yeah, I think
Right.
that's
I love that. I love that. You know, I'll sort of wrap it up here with when you look ahead and you think about you know what's happening in the world and specifically certainly AI, and you mentioned AI and perhaps what designers' role will be in AI, but you also think about the work you're doing with new ventures, but and really design and strategy, culture, everything else. What things are you finding that you're returning to right now? What are your own rituals? Where do you sort of find, your own design superpower, your own design lens, things that you sort of keep returning to that, that are giving you energy now?
yeah. I've been so I like to draw and write.
Oh
So that's
yeah.
I think these days yeah, I have a newsletter called Design Meets AI. So I've been
Ah, okay, perfect.
channeling my energy to writing more. So that's my, um, and then also this, I think AI is pouring down on us.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to make sense of all this
Uh-huh.
fast moving, like every day we hear a new tool coming up, and as designers or like in this space, like knowledge workers, we are kind of overwhelmed. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
make sense of that and also share with others. So that's one thing. Also drawing, definitely. I like to. I need to do more, but that also helps me to understand and make sense of what's happening. So yeah, I think those are the uh, how these days I'm returning to, or I want to do a little more this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the writing and drawing. That's my current state
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see.
We share some of that too. I similarly, I love to write. I love to write and I love to talk to people. So yeah, that's that, we have the overlap right there. And it's really, I think probably both of us, it's making sense of things and putting it out there in whatever fashion or form it, comes out as. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Finally, where can people find you? You mentioned your blog. If you don't mention that again, or sorry, it's a Substack, I think, right?
Substack. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we don't blog anymore. It's a Substack. So, where can people find you at your Substack, LinkedIn, anywhere else?
Yeah, so it's called designmeetsai.com. So yeah, that's on Substack, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and I have yeah personal website. yeah, those are the three places. And then my books, yeah, I think you mentioned them earlier,
Yep.
Rituals for Work and Rituals for Virtual Meetings. Yeah, and that's pretty much.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Kursat. As always, it's a pleasure hanging out with you. And yeah, actually, I gotta still get down there soon. We can go grab some lunch
Yes.
or beer or whatever. And yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, same. Thanks so much for inviting me. And yeah,
Of
it
course.
was a great talk chatting with you today. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Likewise. Okay. See ya.
Yeah, see you.
Thanks for listening to Design Shift. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really helps more designers like you find the show, and it helps me make better shows. And if you're not already subscribed to our awesome newsletter, head over to designshift.me. See you next time.